This show you're about to watch was recorded earlier today by me. Listen, you guys out there. If you listen to this show, it might make you nervous and apprehensive. You might think to yourself, gee, I might want to sell some of my altcoins. Could be a big mistake because you have to realize now, watch the show in the entirety, the show that's coming up that I just produced. But you have to realize something. We're in a situation right now that's unparalleled in human history. There's never been a credit bubble like this before. We have a president out there, Donald Trump, who is telling the Fed right now, trying to dictate to the Fed to cut interest rates by 50 basis points. There's been a little bit of capitulation to the Chinese on the trade war to a certain degree. I'm not really going to call it capitulation, but it's kind of like just today. And that's what made the stock market go poof, up. We're living in a very fluid situation here. But ultimately, look at the goal in the long term. In the long term, now I'm not talking about the 1,000 different altcoins there are out there. A lot of those are going to die. If you're invested in those, you might lose 100% of your money. But I'm talking about the top altcoins. You know, the top 20, including Bitcoin, are positioning themselves. They've become money of the future. And they could prove to be the best investments of your lifetime. This show that you're about to watch could make you very nervous about holding these coins. I don't want you guys to sell out the best thing that you've ever had. Get scared and sell out the best thing that you ever had, because a few years from now, you might look back and you might say, oh my goodness, I had 10 Litecoins and I sold them because Glenn said that the price is going to drop. Okay? And then 10 years from now, you look back and say, I could have been rich. I had 10 Litecoins. I could have been rich. You know? So, be careful here. We are working with such a volatile situation coming up in the next few months, in the next 6 months, that we have to analyze all of the... It's like trying to walk through a volcano field or something. You ever seen one of those old movies where the guy is creeping across the corner of the wall and down below him is a pit full of lava? That's what we're in right now. Every footstep could be our last. And every trade we make, you know, we could lose money or it could break us or make us. The world's becoming extremely volatile. We're trying to find, and so what this shows, the purpose of this show that I produced earlier, I'm going to play for you guys in a minute, is to make you aware of all of the some of the extenuating things that could actually happen from this up and coming recession. So with that in mind, think of all your alternatives and weigh your decisions carefully. Because we're going into an unparalleled point in human history where it's hard to know exactly what safe point in the financial system is going to actually carry you through this. Thank you, and listen to the show and enjoy it. And you guys, here it is. Without further ado, here's the show. Bye-bye. Hello, guys and ladies and gentlemen and ladies. Listen, just want to talk to you guys today. Talk to you about a problem with cryptocurrency. We are heading into a recession. Recessions impact the economy in a deflationary manner. But this is no ordinary recession. This is going to be the recession from HE double hockey sticks. That's what this recession's going to be. But it's like I said, it's not an ordinary recession. This recession, on the front side of it, it could act similar to an ordinary recession. In other words, deflationary. But the big question is how far is that going to go? Because it's going to be very bad. It's going to be very frightening for investors, very frightening for everyone, because the system, the whole thing has been inflated so far through leverage. I mean, this is unbelievable, the amount of leverage. This is off the Richter scale, the amount of leverage that they've applied to this system. From an expansion of credit and derivatives products and all of these different money products that they've created to create wealth. And they've expanded the monetary supply. They've expanded credit so far. Everything is so overinflated, it's unbelievable. So when it starts to pop in a recession and it all starts to deflate, the central banks are going to have to step in. They got no choice. It's almost 100% certainty they're going to step in. But the big question mark is how far will they let it go before they step in? Now let's analyze the Fed, and let's analyze them closely. They've done a lot of talk. And they've helped the markets up with this talk about how they're going to end quantitative tightening, how they're going to lower interest rates, how we've got your back, market, basically what they've said. We've got your back, and the market's responded. Right? How much have they really done? They've done one minuscule 25 basis point rate cut. That's it. That's all they've done. How does this affect Bitcoin? It affects it hugely. Because in the first stage of this recession, when everything starts to go into decline, assets out there that are not yet become an actual store of value yet. The Bitcoin is making a transition. Bitcoin is, but not the altcoins. They're not a store of value. Bitcoin's become somewhat of a store of value, but it's making that transition right now. It's very vulnerable. It's making the transition from a speculative investment into a store of value. It's making that transition, but it's not fully there yet. We got this recession impending. It's probably going to set in. It's actually already setting in, but I mean it's going to set in heavy and hard. Probably sometime later this year or early into next year. How's that going to affect Bitcoin? Well, I'm going to explain how it's going to affect Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies. It's deflationary. This means people haul their horns in. They try to get into the dollar. They try to get into assets that are actually related, that they consider safe. They'll actually go toward gold at first and silver, but they might even get a little bit like they want to keep their money in its purest form, as dollars. They're going to run to the dollar during this very short period of time. How far will the world central banks let this go before they react? Because that's going to start stage 2. So stage 1, we got basically everything starting to melt down. People are chasing money, and they're chasing a place that's safe, a safe haven, right? Some of these people in this first stage might say, hey, you know what? I got these altcoins, they don't really have a good, strong use case just yet. This recession now is starting, like say 3 months from now. They're really getting frightened. The recession is starting. They see the prices starting to drop on everything, except for the dollar. Dollar's going up, dollar's strong, They might actually dump some of these altcoins. They could actually dump some of the Bitcoin in the initial first stage, this first stage. This first stage of the recession is, I'm thinking myself, now let's get to the Fed's reaction. What I think, how long the Fed's going to wait. I don't think they're going to wait very long at all. I think this recession, when it really strikes home, it's going to strike really fast and really hard. And I think that it's going to create a panic situation within the world's financial system. And I think that the Fed is going to convene special meetings. And I don't think that I don't think it's going to last 2 weeks. But during that 2-week period, we could see cryptocurrency roll over. And this is where the rubber meets the road. How are you going to make money from this? Well, don't be surprised in the initial stage, this initial stage of the recession, if cryptocurrency actually rolls over some. It could create a really good buying opportunity. If you're a long-term HODLer, this shouldn't bother you at all. You'll see a little dip in price, and then as soon as the Fed reacts, you'll see the price skyrocket on the other side of that reaction. Because I can tell you guys what the reaction is. We've never really seen helicopter money. Not yet. But it's coming. It's coming. You can smell it. It's like an old lady who's cooking a meat dinner on the stove, and you can smell it. I smell dinner cooking, you know? You can smell right now, you can smell the cheap, easy money. Because this is going to trigger it. This initial stage of this recession is going to trigger a massive response from the world central banks to print. As soon as that response takes place, gold and silver is going to go ripping higher. And you're going to see your cryptocurrencies rip higher. And you're going to see your dollar on its way down, the elevator down. It's going to be on the elevator down to the double H, the HE double hockey stick. That's where your dollar is going to be, on its elevator down at that point. But you got to wait until that switch is tripped. You got to wait. See, and in the initial stage of this recession, we're going to see everything shrink. It's going to have to shrink to a certain point where it triggers the world central banks into action. And, you know, they don't really want to do it. They don't really want to go out there and have to print a whole bunch of new money and go back into the money creation tool, because this basically means that they failed. That they're a failure. But you know, they're going to spin it different. They're going to spin it as, we just saved the world. That's how they're going to spin it. Until that day, though, as this recession progresses, and it's starting to get in there now, it's starting to really heat up toward it. We're marching toward it much faster. I'm going to tell you guys what, honest to God, we would have had another year, maybe another year and a half till this recession started. It might not have started until about 2021 or maybe even 2022. But the situations that's going on in the world, the Brexit, the trade war, this is bringing it in much, much closer, much faster, speeding it up. It's getting the recession here much faster. Especially the trade war. The damage has already been done. They're basically, the world trade right now has had an enormous damage done to it. The world trade right now. And you can't take that damage away. It's going to push us into this slowdown. The effects haven't really fully manifested themselves yet. So we got to wait until the Fed and Federal Reserve and the other world central banks all work in unison to try to bring us out of this bad recession that we're going to be in. They did the same thing back in 2008. And the same thing's going to happen again this time. But this is going to send Bitcoin skyrocket into the moon. How can you profit from this? Well, it's very simple. If you're an HODLer, you know, you'll make out good, you know, if you hold right through this thing. You don't take the loss. Like, if something dips in price, say you buy in at Bitcoin, say you bought in at $10,000 Bitcoin, and say the price drops significantly. You take the loss if you sell. Then you've taken the loss. You've accepted it. But if you ride that thing all the way down to the bottom, and then you keep hanging on to it all the way through its bottoming process, and then it starts to ride back up, once it passes the mark that you bought in at, it's just like none of that bad stuff ever happened. And you haven't taken the loss because you haven't sold, and now the price is back up to where you paid. No loss there, see? Now the price might continue to moonshot past that. So for HODLers, if you're holding long term, you're probably going to ride this whole thing right through. This little bump. Basically what I'm trying to tell you guys is we're heading for a bump in the road. And it's this recession starting, the initial stages of the recession. Until the world central banks react, we're going to have to go over that bump or over these potholes coming right up ahead. But it might also think about the buying opportunity that this could create. If you guys get very little Bitcoin, let's say you guys are like me and you don't have much, okay? This could create the buying opportunity so you could get in and get a little bit. You ever think about that? Because on the other side of it, it's going to shoot up. And another thing I want to say is there's not enough room out there for all of these altcoins. Of course, you guys probably knew that already, Bitcoin, I think, is going to succeed. I think the top coins are going to succeed. And they're going to be there for the long term. But these thousands of different altcoins that got out there? Blogna coin and Sunshine coin and flirt with your neighbor coin or whatever. I mean, it's just they got so many different ones. I'm just making those up as I go along, but all these ones are so many out there, Be careful investing in those because they could go to zero. Quite seriously, guys. Just invest in your top coins, and you got to start thinking long term. You got to keep your eye on what the Federal Reserve is doing and what the world central banks are doing primarily. Because ultimately, in the end, this is going to turn into a hyperinflation. And I see a world a few years from now where Bitcoin and gold and silver are the only real true money, and these fiat currencies have met their demise. But until then, they're going to keep kicking this can down the road as long as they can until in the end they create the hyperinflation that we're looking for. And there's no other way out of this. Listen, thank you guys for listening to this show. Trying to be truthful with you guys about what just might be coming very soon when this recession first starts, so that you can make the right play. Like you get these guys out there right now on these channels who are just pumping Bitcoin, telling you to buy, and I can see a little bump in the road coming here. I'm letting you guys know about it ahead of time, okay? So, thanks for listening. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye, guys.